It's been a while. Sorry I've been gone for so long, but now that I'm back, it's time to address something that's been irking me for a while now. For those who aren't aware, for at least a few months now, there's been talk of a document covering the acts of Sasuko Winchester, a has-been artist and former friend of mine who I got into a fight with over a year ago. If you want more backstory on that situation, you can watch my other videos on the whole thing for more context, since I won't really be delving into the whole thing all over again here. This video is more so about covering new stuff that's occurred in the months since Chapter 2 and Allie's House of Horrors. On the 14th of August, an account known as Truthbringer would make a tweet claiming they were working on a document on Sasu. Now initially, this looks like it'd be great news, since it'd mean justice for me and all the other people affected by Sasu. But there is one thing to note here. The date this tweet was posted. Yep, the 14th of August in 2023, so almost a year ago now. And then you look at the runtime of this very video, and it's safe to say that things have gone tits up. About a month later, in September of 2023, the account made another tweet claiming they were still working on the document but had to sift through over 400 screenshots. Now this is kind of understandable. I mean, I'm the one who had to sift through a fuck ton of evidence to make the pastel video, and that took at least a few days. But then, September turned into October, then into November, then December, then we went into 2024, and within that span, we really only had one actual update from the account. The child groomer and her two enablers who took part in the doxing. The doc is coming together swimmingly, with more faces being added the further we descend down this twisted rabbit hole. And take a wild guess what month we're in now. Yup, July. Almost exactly 1 year since the initial announcement and still no document. It's almost as if some bullshit has been going on behind the scenes. So, during the time span between the September update and the November update, a group chat was started with a few people, those people being the two doc makers, henceforth known as V and M respectively, Spoken Mind, Whist, and myself. Now, this group chat was meant to be a space to share evidence to be added to the document, and to share memes, of course. Now, one important thing to note here is that in this group chat, one of the more substantial pieces of evidence that I shared was in regards to a conversation I had with Allie sometime around September. Now, I would like to keep in mind, while I won't delve into the whole conversation here, that there was a very clear flip-flopping of stances from Allie, considering the fact that she was going from playing defense to herself to then demonizing Sasu, despite the fact that the two were getting along just swimmingly just a few months prior. In fact, Allie even took Sasu's side when it came to dogpiling on me, despite her, let's just say, less than subtle jealousy towards Sasu in regards to Whist back when those two were dating. But back on topic. This group chat would last from November up until March, where M left the group chat. And this is where the situation gets a little messy. Now keep in mind, I'm going to keep a few details out because not only can I not verify that they're true, but they're also tied to a alleged restraining order. The main gist of the situation is that some bullshit happened between the two doc makers, and this was because instead of focusing on helping victims of someone with years worth of damage that would make Buttons look like a saint, and trust me, he will be showing up later, those two decided it'd be more important to have spats with each other. And what's even worse is that I didn't even find out about what actually happened from M or V. I had to find out from Whist about what happened. And what's even worse, somehow, is that when the two had their spat, V had their access to the document cut, and M basically ghosted me. So I have no way of getting access to the document and handling that kind of shit myself. Absolutely wonderful. But there is a bit of a silver lining to this. I managed to get my hands on, again, what little evidence was shared in the group chat. However, Spoken was also gracious enough to have sent me a, let's say a text file with links to a whole lot of screenshots. Give or take about 100 links or so thanks for that, I guess. Now some of the links are dead, of course, because why wouldn't they be? But I still managed to salvage some key takeaways from this, and believe me, it's going to be painful to watch, so let's just get into this shit. Now, I will have to make something very clear before I show anything. due to the fact that I don't have that many screenshots, I can't really confirm a lot of things. And while I would normally prefer to hold off on discussing shit until more proof comes out, there's, again, very little chance of said proof actually coming out because that kind of evidence is being gatekept by someone who has, again, ghosted me for several months now. So we're going to have to take some of these accusations with a metric, and I mean a metric ton of salt. Now, around the time of the initial drama, there were at least 2 group chats made with Sasuko and a few of her friends. Now, these group chats contained, alongside your usual backdoor shit talking from a group of sophists, multiple instances of these people plotting to go after me. Now, one plan they had was to get a bunch of children to go after me on Twitter. Yes, you heard that correctly. She's not required to tell anyone anything. Sasuke, go on Amino and recruit a bunch of kids in the community to go after Nora. I have the right not to say, plus I am the owner. Let's fucking go, he can't use the minor card then. Actually 50, and I can give them free Starbucks for a month. Minors love Starbucks. All they gotta do is fill out comments about how he was in the wrong and call his bitch ass out without mentioning names, and boom, chaos ensues. Because he can't say he's a minor because they're also minors. So, we've already got instances of these people wanting to recruit children into their slap fight with a literal child. But not just that, they also wanted to fucking bribe these kids with money and Starbucks. And they planned this shit out well, considering the fact that one of them, Claudette, said this. You know what, I know a 16-year-old, I'ma talk to him and see if he doesn't mind going after Nora. Can't pull the minor card then. The good thing is y'all don't know him, so he can't be linked back to any of y'all. I'm ending this bullshit, he wants to play, I'll stoop to his level. We'll send a bunch of minors to fight for us since he wants to use a bunch of adults to fight us. You can't make this shit up. They planned this shit to the smallest detail, even getting someone that no one else in the chat knew so that it couldn't be traced back to them. That is the textbook definition of harassment. And yet I'm being talked down to and treated like a fucking invalid for pointing it out. And keep in mind, the reason why they wanted to hide behind children and potentially put them in danger was because they knew that if they kept going for me themselves, it would make them look bad. So they had at least some level of optics when it came to planning this out, just not as much as you would hope. But what could be worse than using children to fight your battles for you? Oh, how about having an abusive piss gremlin with a penchant for drawing and defending drawn CP fight your battles for you? Yeah, no, they actually discussed having Buttons go in and dox me. Someone hire Eden to dox him. Time for police involvement. And that wasn't the least of Buttons' involvement in the group chat, because they actively played into his fucking delusions in this chat. Keep in mind, they actually had him in this fucking group chat. And the reason why they had him in here was because he hates Whist, and Whist had started to distance himself from the group by this point, so that's fun. We are here for you, we are not leaving you, little one. None of you will be abandoned again no matter how difficult it gets. You do not belong in darkness. From Kirby. I stopped fronting, I felt too afraid. I don't. I was afraid of the things people were saying. One person said they wanted to beat us. One person said they know where I live. One person said Whis never liked us, or would Anna fuck us. We're too ugly and gross. Hun, breathe. We are here now. We came for your side of the story. We are not here to hurt or judge you. What you're telling us makes far more sense than what was spread about you. I'm happy I stayed unbiased in this situation. Everyone always has the other side, and for people to not seek that out, it's just wrong. Ah yes, the serial abuser who stalked people, who actively went out of their way to get the info of someone and their friends who they hadn't spoken to in years, by the way. That's the person who should be treated like an uwu victim. So, let me get this straight. You'll bend the knee for someone Allie literally said she'd stab to death, but being told to grow a backbone is too fucking hard for you? Wonderful standards you have there. And I'd also like to note the double standard when it comes to, people not seeking the other side of the conversation. Because they'll give Buttons a pass because, Oh, nobody sought out his side of the story. Oh, he's being treated like a villain, but never gave that same courtesy to me. And I'd argue, Buttons has done a lot more damage than I ever have. I've been active for 3 fucking years by this point. And how long has Kirby been active? Well, it's hard to keep track, but I'd say almost a decade now, and he's arguably done a lot more damage. But yet, he's the one being granted a fucking pass? Fucking unbelievable. And keep in mind, the only reason why they kicked him out of the group wasn't because of all the shit Buttons has done, or the fact that he's a pathological liar, or, the fact that he's abusing his quote-unquote multiple personality disorder to gain sympathy from people. It's because he likes Lolly. No, I'm not fucking kidding. And by the way, this is something that they knew, because keep in mind, a bunch of people in this group saw my video on Buttons from Christmas of 2022, and that video had a part that went a little something like this. To put it simply, Eden had tried to justify Skep's love for Lolicon by saying that it only does it as a form of coping with past trauma. But oh no, it does get worse, because then this also got leaked. Yeah, what was that about being concerned for my safety, Eden? But oh no, y'all forgot about that because he was willing to help you go after someone who used to kiss your asses. But hold on, something doesn't seem right here. How come they set the bar at being into fictional children, but not talking sexually about actual children? No, I did not fucking stutter. So, in this group chat, which again was made to talk shit about me and some friends of mine, they decided it would be a fun idea to talk sexually about me in such a grossly vindictive way that when I read through this shit, it actually made me feel sick. Honestly though, I do hope he gets banned, because he is just that rotten to everyone he comes across unless they're sucking his dick. And you can read what Sasu says here, which is fucking disgusting. And what they said later on in this group chat, I have no fucking words. Keep in mind, I was 16 when this was going on. These are grown adults pushing 30. Some of them might even be pushing 40. And they're saying this shit about a teenager. I don't think I even need to say what's wrong with this, but because I have to apparently explain to people why shit like this is fucked up, I'll say it anyway. You, as a grown-ass adult, with taxes, a job, and hell, in some case, children of your own, should not be okay with being around people who say this kind of shit, let alone saying it yourselves. And I'm not kidding, some of these fuckers have kids of their own, and Sasu works in a fucking daycare. If any rational person found out someone who's around children was facilitating or even participating in this kind of shit, said rational person would be going to jail for murder. But yeah, no. I guess this explains why Sasu didn't want to get this traced back to her by going to her cop brother, because maybe he would have found out the kind of shit his sister was allowing and even saying, and if he dug a little deeper, maybe he would have found the messages that talked about me being sexually violated. So, yeah, I guess we can throw all my trauma away from sexual topics, because our beloved Sasu and her friends talked about me being fucking molested. What's next? Are they gonna talk about me being murdered? Now, keep in mind that none of this surprises me. How they kept Allie around, despite her, again, talking about stabbing Buttons with a fork, which, again, she sent to Buttons with her parts cropped out of it, as I mentioned in a previous video. However, while I'm not surprised, it sure as hell does not mean I'm not disgusted by it. Because again, this is a group of grown adults saying this about a teenager. All over being told to grow a fucking spine and being called out for harassing a kid. And keep in mind, this group chat was kept secret for a year. For over a year, people knew about this, one of them being someone I actually made amends with recently, and said fucking nothing. But oh no, the Depravity doesn't stop there, because they also had sights set on my friends, saying some of those foul shit imaginable, like wishing Spoken was infertile or claiming Whist was a pedophile. Bear in mind, they had zero proof of that latter statement, and they also roasted the ever-living shit out of Buttons for saying the same shit back in December of 2022. You should all be seeing the pattern here by now. A lot of the shit these people are doing wound up being shit that they got on other people's case for, but find it okay to do themselves. Now, there is a whole lot more I could dissect from this group chat, but I think I've killed my sanity enough for right now. Though, there is one last thing I would like to acknowledge from this particular group chat. You raise many good questions, my dear, but I have one of my own now. This child says fingers are being pointed that he shouldn't be involved in a situation that doesn't involve him by saying his beef with another did not involve their friends. But my dear user, did you get consent from the people whose screenshots you shared from a private server before you thought about possibly bringing them into that? This is involving them in your so-called beef, is it not? Because you threw their names out there with little thought that they would retaliate by this sheer fact alone. Did you also not say her and her friends all? This is involving them in your situation at hand. However, your involvement in the case of Lady G, Sasu, and Howling had nothing to do with you whatsoever. An admission of guilt, perhaps, that you had a pre-existing role with Sasu, so therefore you decided to join in the entertainment, as you call it. Now, this is where I'm now going to explain my point of view, because I kind of just stopped caring about whether or not people are going to believe me by this point. The idea of sharing screenshots from a private server has been an argument they've been using to discredit me from the very start, despite the fact that doing so is the very definition of a genetic fallacy. Yes, Sasu's server can technically be considered a private server, and yeah, I can see why sharing screenshots from a server like that can be considered problematic if said screenshots were to contain sensitive information, or venting or that kind of shit. But keep in mind, this wasn't one of those cases. The screenshots I showed in that first tweet contained the interaction that got me banned. Nothing sensitive was in there. It was me and someone who I considered to be a friend at the time fucking cracking jokes with a mod I was friendly with, who, for the record, later admitted to not being offended by the joke themselves. The argument that I showed these screenshots without consent is null and void when considering the fact that I wasn't airing out sensitive shit about people, because that's not the kind of person I am, nor is it the kind of person I want to be. And attacking where the screenshots came from, rather than actually addressing the contents of said screenshots, really only serves to make you look suspicious because you're trying to cover something up. And now, onto the part about Lady G. Yeah, I'm aware that I was not involved with that situation, at least on a personal level, but my involvement wasn't an admission of guilt. If anything, Sasu trying to suppress this shit from coming out by going to Whist is more of an admission of guilt than anything I have ever done. I got involved because Sasu was starting to go other people, and I wanted to make people aware of that fact because it proved she could be a danger to the fandom. Did I get a rush of catharsis from finding out I wasn't fucking crazy? Yeah, I did, because who wouldn't? It felt good to basically tell the people who fucked me over, I told you so. But that doesn't mean that I got involved just to stroke my own ego. I got involved because it was the right thing to do, and people deserve to know what was being covered up. But you know what? Enough with that bullshit. Now we're gonna get onto the part where you're gonna want to keep any and all dangerous objects away from you, because believe me, the shit you're about to learn is going to leave you seeing red. Okay, so before I actually delve into this, I do want to allow anyone triggered by mentions of grooming a moment to either prepare themselves or to skip past this section entirely. I'm also going to note that this is going to be the part where we have to take things with a metric fuck ton of salt, because any evidence that can actually prove that this is true is being gatekept by someone who hasn't been communicating to anyone for months. I hate that I keep having to repeat that, but again, it fucking pisses me off that I can't be able to prove this shit because, again, the evidence is being withheld from the public. From what I could gather though, Sasu was particularly active in a has-been RP Amino a couple of years ago. So active, in fact, that she allegedly wound up getting with a minor. Keep in mind that the only records of this happening from, at least back then, are a conversation had in the Amino chat where people discussed it after finding out. we have a small issue. In a different community, it has come to our attention Sasu is romantically involved with a minor. Do we have proof of this, like that they are a minor, of course? Yes, in a VC, she had admitted this before Al, me, and one other leader in that community. And he has admitted so, we have the proof. So what do you think we should do? Also, I kinda wanna ask the community, but don't know. In HHRP, we got proof from a member about his age, so we confronted her in a VC. This is technically a bannable offense. The things you learn about people you put trust into, I'm appalled, but she is so nice. I don't like allowing other actions from other communities to cause action here, but we can't let this go unnoticed. Yeah, no, if she is doing so there, who's to say she isn't doing so here? We have to ban. I like her, but she's not grasping the full severity of her situation. This place is just weighing us down so hard. Every time we find new curators, they end up being power abusive. Or this. Don't want to see any other kids lured in, I will vote the same. This is very sad, but we cannot allow this. Now, again, there is a chance that this might not be true. This might be false. But if this is true, then, well, it makes a lot of her actions thus far a lot more concerning, like the lack of regard for child safety, the sexual jokes about me made in the group chat, and the fact that she works in a fucking daycare and harbored minors in her Discord circle. And I want you guys to keep in mind that Sasu's around, what, 26, 27? Which means that based on when this happened, Sasu would have been around 23 to 24. Hell, at most, she would have been around 25. And before we can even continue with this, can I just bring up how fucking appalled I am that the people in this chat were more concerned about how sad it was and how she was so nice and how every person they bring in just winds up being a degenerate? Like, come the fuck on. This is a situation about a child being put in danger, and the only thing you care about is Sad Boy posting about how disappointed you are? Fucking unbelievable. And keep in mind that this was in 2021, and no one found out about this until I heard it from other people. First there was Whist, then there was Allie, the same woman who, I would like to remind you, allowed her mod to ERP with a kid, allowed sexual topics to be described around kids, and actively posted porn in a server with minors with no lock on the channels until after I was kicked out. By her own admission, by the way. And this is someone who kicked Sasu out, brought her back, then kicked her out again, then tried crawling back to her after that conversation I had with her back in September. Again, by her own admission. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that no one found out about it, because around August, people decided to open a group chat with Sasu in it. And they brought up the situation with the minor, and it wound up being not that great of a conversation. Normally, I would let it go if it was something stupid, but I don't know, I feel like I was lied to by Al about it at the time. When I first met Sasu, she was dating an Alistair, who told her he was an adult and had siblings, though that story kept changing from my knowledge. What I want to know is if Sasu was aware he was a minor and just didn't want to say anything, or if he just played her that hard, because a lot of people brought this up, including myself. When I did meet him, he seemed off. Okay, so with him, he kept changing his age to be from 18 to 16 to 19 to 20. I wasn't the only one he lied to. If I remember correctly, he did this to a 30-year-old and another girl, if I could remember. The siblings part, yes, that was hella confusing, because he would say he had 2 brothers, to 1 brother, to cousins, so his story was a mess. I wasn't aware he was a minor until after I blocked him. He also did threaten me he would kill himself if I left. Now, there's quite a few things wrong with this statement right off the bat. First of all, if he kept changing his age over and over again, that should have been the first sign to block him. Secondly, if you kept talking to him after he said he was 16, especially talking to him inappropriately, the fault is still on you because you kept doing that shit while knowing he was a child. And thirdly, if he had that bad of a track record, don't you think people would have caught on and not let him in? A kid his age, who's apparently too stupid to keep his story straight with people, wouldn't be smart enough to cover his tracks. Like, come the fuck on. And to further this catastrophe, when they were done discussing it, Sasu basically just shut down any further talk by talking about how she grinds her teeth and doesn't like remembering it because she's a fucking pussy. So Al can't be trusted, very astute because he used suicide bait. Honestly, this made me grind my teeth so hard my tooth I'm supposed to get a root canal hurts. All this made me grind my teeth, I don't like remembering that. Now, here's the thing. We don't know exactly who the kid is, so we can't really ask for their side of the story, and even if we did somehow know who he was, I would rather not burden him with 3-year-old trauma. But for fuck's sake, can we address just how poorly this shit show was handled by everyone? From the people sad posting after they found out, to the people who knew for years and hid it from the public, to the people who did find out but chose to just give her the benefit of the doubt. Every single fucking one of them had a role in making sure she could get away with it. Fucking unbelievable. So, to be completely honest, this entire situation just fucking left me dead inside. From the very fucking beginning, all the situation has really done is leave me feeling completely broken, because I just wound up having to deal with the same shit I've had to deal with from other people just on a larger scale. From people attacking me over little shit, to having to deal with people cutting me off over it, to being pushed to the point of having a mental breakdown. In fact, the only credit I can give them is that unlike a certain situation from 3 years ago, I didn't try to game end myself this time around. And keep in mind, all of this shit started over a simple joke. A spelling joke, no less. And then you have me and a few friends talking shit to each other on Discord, which led to Sasu getting her fucking titties in a twist for little to no reason at all. And keep in mind, I never wanted to make this a public spectacle. At first, all I wanted was for these people to acknowledge that they fucked up and everything would be all good. In fact, had they actually learned their lesson, none of this wouldn't have happened in the first place. I wouldn't have gotten harassed, people wouldn't have found out about the Lady G shit, Momo wouldn't have been gotten thrown under the bus, unfairly mind you, Whist would still be in their group, and hell, so would I. And isn't that kind of funny? That at the end of the day, the one person they could have used on their side to handle the shit for them is the same person they wound up fucking over. Though, honestly, I don't really feel all that bad about it nowadays, because now her entire group has basically turned into a free-for-all. And since we're on the topic of that, I just have one question. Why was I the one who deserved to be punished? What I did was practically trivial compared to the rest of the shit Sasu's done. Would it have taken too much effort to maybe examine her behavior under a finer lens? Because now, you've got people being fucked over and realizing in the most depressing fashion that I was right. Like, it's fucking hilarious, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's kind of fucking sad. Sasu's either been turning people in her group against one another, or turning against them herself, practically turning her entire fucking group into a clusterfuck of people eating each other alive over inconsequential shit. Yet I'm the villain? And as for the people who made the sudden realization that Sasu was a horrible person, just know that while I'm a lot more forgiving than I was a year ago, I'm sure as hell not gonna forgive you people. That ship has sailed a while ago, either because you stuck around for too long, or wallowed in self-pity for too long that I'd basically be kicking you while you're down if I forgave you. I've passed out enough chances to the right kinds of people, and also the wrong kinds of people. I don't need to be giving more to people who haven't earned it. And then there's the topic of the people making the document. I'm not gonna give V that much shit for what went down, because she at least expressed some remorse about not being able to help me, and she directed me to Spoken, who did have evidence, so I can give her some credit for that. But I can give Mari a lot of shit for how it went down, because let's be honest, she's kind of a piece of shit. Not only for gatekeeping the document and the evidence, but for also ghosting the very person she promised to help, and for only going after Sasu because she fucked her over. This wasn't about wanting to help people, it was over a stupid fucking vendetta, and honestly, maybe it's for the best that she chose to step away from the internet. And since we're talking about shitty friends, I might as well address one more. Leo, I was nothing but kind to you. When you broke down, I was there to comfort you and talk to you because I hated seeing my friends in a state of distress. And how did you repay that kindness? Let's see. By trying to silence me, and when I refused, you deleted any messages you had with me, blocked me, and allowed these people to go after me while you sat back and watched like a little bitch. And when you were asked about why, your only excuse was that you were worried that I was gonna disclose the shit you told to me in confidence, because that's definitely the shit I would do to people. I can't even begin to express my level of just pure disappointment. Because if I do, I'm gonna wind up going into a huge fucking rabbit hole, and I've already done that enough in this video. And as for everyone else, I'm just gonna have to say that I told you so. And you didn't listen. So I don't feel bad in the slightest about how she treated you. Like I've said before, I've been in this mess for 3 years now, and in those 3 years, I have done my best to help the fucking community out by calling these kinds of people out. And hell, one of the situations I covered was practically a word-for-word example of what wound up happening to me later, except it happened to someone else. And it's left me wondering how none of you learned from last time that you should not be doing this kind of shit. You shouldn't be getting your panties in a twist over stupid shit, nor should you be allowing people to harass kids. But now you realize that, and really the only question I have left for you people is, well, how did the Kool-Aid taste going down?